Shalom, good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 44th year. Today is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, in the Gregorian calendar. And since it is after nightfall, it is the 25th day of the sixth Israelite Hebrew month of Elul in the Hebrew Israelite calendar year 5785. Welcome to episode. I didn't write down what the episode is. Oops, just a second. Let me check that because I published it just the other day. Say it right for the record. I'll correct it, even if I said it wrong, would be in the written section. Just a minute. Here we go. Ancient Roots Mothering. This is episode 36. Episode 36 of our Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage seminar with three mighty women of the God of Israel, Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Northern Negev, Mrs. J. Rivka Asselin of the Lower Galilee, Mrs. Gila Weiss of Florida, who's a midwife, and we have happy news. Someone's giving birth to a baby. Hope everything comes out all right. And their distinguished guest, Mrs. Gwen Arment, and those beautiful lakes in the background. That's not Avatar, it's real. There are such places still left on Earth. May the whole Earth look like that soon enough. And we welcome our friend and colleague, Mrs. Miriam Fouth from Columbia, North Carolina. Now, before we begin, I want all of you out there, our friends and colleagues, support the work of Chava, Rivka, and Gila. And I don't know what Gwen does. I'm going to find out, support her work too. It's all to help us feel better, look better, live better, spiritual, physical advice, and it's all practical homespun, like Farmer's Almanac kind of stuff, which is homespun and because it works. All the old stuff, that works. The garlic works, the honey works, all the good stuff works. So listen to them, support their work. These ancient wisdom and ancient Torah-based Jewish wisdom combined. It's a very powerful combination. And also, Lowell, that's me, welcomes you to support his work to build our 30-year-old since January 1995 Hebrew Bible-based broadcasting network, English language conference and lecture series from Jerusalem to honor the Godland Torah and people of Israel and all humanity, and our 1-year-old since January 2024, Henry Dunster College of Jerusalem, where we are replanting the old Harvard and the new Jerusalem. Henry Dunster was, for all practical purposes, the first president of Harvard College. He oversaw the graduation of the first class in 1642. Didn't have enough boys for a minyan. And they just were getting started. They were chalitzim. He taught them all the classes. They just did it. Now that Harvard no longer exists, unfortunately, what happened? We're replanting and rebuilding it with world-class people, with world-class ideas and world-class activities from Jerusalem. And now, without further ado, let me hand over the mic to our lovely ladies. Gila is with us in spirit. Chava, Rivka, and Gwen, it's all yours. I'm going up to the gallery.
Thank you, Mr. Lowell Joseph R.E.A. Gallen, a lion for our times. Welcome to Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. This is such an important episode for me personally because I'm welcoming my friend and really my mentor since I was a child, Ms. Gwen Arment, or Auntie Gwen, really. And her cat, who I saw in the corner of the screen. I'm going to say it's okay if the cat comes back. Okay. So I just want to say a special blessing. I'm going to say the blessing in Hebrew. It's the Shechechianu, both because Gwen is here and I picked up some clothes when I was speaking in America. I just landed yesterday. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Thank you for bringing me to this day where we get to tap Gwen's brain for wisdom, for the wisdom of the elders, really. We were talking about how that really is creeping up in our lives when we become elders. You don't necessarily see it coming and you never kind of feel like you're there. But it happens. So Gwen,
Yes.
Hi.
Hi,
Okay,
honey.
so hi. Okay, so one of the questions that I get all the time, because we do a show called Ancient Roots Mothering, which is really about attachment parenting and mothering. And one of the reasons that I wanted you here is because people ask me all the time, is your show just about mothering? Do you have to be a mother to kind of follow the precepts of being emotionally present, listening, actively listening to other people when you're in any sort of relationship, business, personal, being able to meet someone where they are emotionally, intellectually, and kind of help lift them up from wherever they are? And I said, absolutely not. And a lot of times I'll speak about you, Gwen,
Oh,
because you are not a mother in the traditional sense, but you were, you really mothered me, and not only me, but a lot of other young people. So when I was Gwen and I were actresses together. I was a professional child actress, and Gwen was not a child at that time. She was a child previous to that time, though. And Gwen, now, maybe you can give a little bit of background about yourself, what you're doing, kind of what you just mentioned, the piano and the acting and the dancing and Broadway producing. How about that?
ooh, hey, I want this cat to go away.
I don't. That cat's making the show.
Oh,
Hi,
Patso,
baby.
Patso. Julie knows, Rivka knows Patso. Whew. Well, I've had a long life. And it's always been revolving around the theater, music, dance. I was a professional actress, singer, dancer, turned director. Well, I think I've been choreographing since I was a little kid. Um, just a minute. Um, and am still involved in theater. I taught also. So I call Julie one of my kids. I'm sorry, Rivka. She'll always be Julie to me. Um, I was raised by a father who was incredible, an immigrant. Lost my mother when I was a little kid. And he always helped young people, and always hoped that I would be helped along the way, because I was out in the world by myself, trying to make it in Chicago and New York. And that's not so easy, and it's not so safe. So I've always tried to help young people myself. So in the theater, I've had a lot of young people that I've directed, that I've taught. As a matter of fact, in my house in New York City, there's a young woman who's been there almost 5 years now. She was a student of mine, a voice teacher, and I helped her get involved in the theater, and she now basically runs the oldest not-for-profit theater in New York City. So that's always been a mission for me. Julie was very young when I met her at a wonderful show in Ohio, and we have been friends ever since. Rivka, I'm so sorry. My degree, my undergraduate degree, was in music. I was a pianist, a classical pianist, and a singer. I've always been a dancer, and I got a master's in theater, actually, after my career was over, practically. And then I became a producer. So actually, I was a producer. I had a couple of companies that were theater development companies in New York City, and we would develop new musicals. And I'm sure you have heard of a couple of them, at least. Then I began producing Broadway shows. So that's what I've been doing for the last, God knows how many years. And I have Water for Elephants, which was on Broadway last year. Did we see that together? I think we saw it together. Yes. And it's going out on the road next week. It opens in Baltimore. So we're hoping it does very well on the road. So a few of the shows that I have been involved with as a co-producer are Come From Away, which I'm very proud of. It's been seen worldwide for quite a while. Thank you. the prom, have a company. Gosh, what else? Water for Elephants. What else?
Legally Blonde.
Blonde, yes. Drowsy Chaperone. Anyway, I've been doing this for a while. So when I stopped performing, this is what I did. And taking a little hiatus right now, involved in my local community and my local town, and just enjoying life right now and helping other people. I just came back from New York helping somebody, physically, actually, who is dealing with a medical problem and came in from Los Angeles. So my mission now a lot is helping other people. And that's about it. That's it in a nutshell.
When during this whole kind of COVID situation that took over the world, you decided to run for the local school board. Is that so?
I did.
Why
Yes,
did you decide to do that?
Whew. If you know Act for America, Brigitte, what's her last name? Act for America. I joined the local chapter because I was dissatisfied with what was going on in the United States politically. And there is a monthly Zoom meeting with the local chapter in New York City. And I joined that, and a wonderful speaker, they have wonderful speakers, John Guandolo, said, "We are losing America." And he is a former FBI, former policeman, very knowledgeable, very connected. So in listening to him and listening to other speakers like that, I said, I must get involved. And he said, we have to go to the grassroots. It's, we can't just start at the top on a national level. Grassroots is very important. So I decided to get involved in my local politics. And I ran for the Board of Ed, which I won, but because of minority seating, I had to give up my seat to the other side. And I am presently on the zoning commission as a zoning commissioner. So I've been serving in that capacity and in another capacity, as well as a secretary in another organization in my town. So that is why, because I thought I can help on the grassroots level, which then can morph into the state level, which then can morph into the national level, hopefully.
And
I'd explain it, I hope.
yeah, you did. But one of the things too that I think is interesting is when you went to the grassroots level, you went straight to the children. It's like that quote from Evita, get them while they're young, right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
what was it that you were seeing in the way children or what children were being taught that concerned you and you wanted to help change?
I felt children were being indoctrinated. And we needed to flush that out and really get to the core of teaching of the subjects that needed to be taught properly. So I thought I could, and I also, my local high school did not have an orchestra. They didn't have the music that I thought they should have. So I thought I could help in that capacity. In educational capacity, because if the children are being indoctrinated, we're seeing what we're seeing now in the United States, and I'm sure worldwide.
And by indoctrinated, just, and again, if there's any, because I never thought I would say this as an American or as an Israeli, that one would have to be afraid to share their opinions in a place where there's allegedly free speech. But apparently we have been for at least 5 or 6 years now, had to be afraid for speaking our truth. So
Well,
just to kind of
what just happened to our dear friend Charlie Kirk,
right,
who promoted speech and dialogue. and actually educated himself. Yes, it's very frightening, and to see what's happening in London, where free speech is being taken away. So we have to grab that back any way we can.
So, for example, I know Hava's talked in previous shows about a school, even in Israel. I mean, this started in America before it came to Israel, but the school system that was like very woke, right, Hava? The local school system. There was some like, do you want to comment on that so everyone knows what we're talking about?
Just the one here. We have one local school in our area. And my kids are homeschooled, but they wanted to try regular education. I said, fine. So yeah, it's seeing it from that inside is scary. They're teaching about, they brought in a trans whatever to talk about their journey, whatever you want to call it. Like to sit down and talk to the, like, why did they need to anyway? And then pushing during COVID, of course, there was pushing the masks and the vaccines, like they couldn't come to school without it. That's when I pulled them out. I said, you tried, it was fun, goodbye. And the whole left wokest mentality is running rampant there. It's scary.
This also happened in here, especially with the masks. We really fought that. But it's the porno books, which are being lauded, basically, and put into our school libraries. And I'm sure you have seen many videos of school boards and public meetings and parents speaking out against this in our schools. This sexual indoctrination. What does that have to do with school? What does that have to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic? And then rewriting history. That is abominable, what we've seen in our schools. This cat wants to be part of it.
That's okay. Fatso can be. Fatso's allowed. Okay. So by history, the history actually changing. So I remember being very shocked seeing in the United States that this cat's hilarious.
Sorry.
I did not realize what a ham Patso was.
He wants to be the center of attention.
Just pick him up and hold him, put him right in the camera, and then he'll get over it. But the tearing down of statues of our founding fathers and things like that, like literally history just being erased, memory hold in front of our very eyes. And it hasn't come to Israel in the way it's already quite prevalent in the US, but it's just a matter of time. So anyway, I think one of the things I want to draw our audience's attention to is the fact that you don't have to be a parent to be concerned about how the new up and coming generations are being raised and to get involved.
Not at all.
And to make connections with them, personal connections. We have a strong tradition in Judaism as well as other traditions about not only respecting our elders, Gwen, but as you know, really going to them for guidance and advice and leadership, that it's not happening both in Israeli society and in American society, which is, to me, one of the most terrifying things. Because the elder generation can't provide that link, kind of the pathway to our past that we can carry into our future.
They can't?
They aren't when they're not asked.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, they need to be asked.
They need to be asked, right? And also respected. And that's another thing. Young people obviously don't respect teachers like we used to. Well, I don't know if I would either at this point. And the elders. And when you think about the indoctrination has been going on for quite a while. So it didn't just happen yesterday. We have generations that have been indoctrinated. So, I would be a great grandparent. So is a grandparent going to have the same knowledge that I have, the same experience, or even a parent? But this is what I'm seeing, that that my generation is dying off, and we're not the greatest generation. We're behind that, and we also are the generation that started this descent. And I'm sad to say that, because in my class, my graduating high school class, it was a fantastic class, but I don't know what happened. Then the hippies came along, and the weathermen and so forth and so on, and they became, they were the criminals, and then they became the college professors.
What
So
are the weathermen?
uh,
I don't think you mean meteorologists. I think
no, I don't. No,
yeah,
that was what was his name? Bill Chicago.
like a culty
Angela
type thing.
Davis, those types that were bombing and shooting. If you remember that happened in DC, and also the 68 convention in Chicago. And then you think about what happened at Kent State University. Oh God, Bill Chicago, very good friend of Barack Obama, and apparently wrote his book for him. Bill Ayers and Angela Davis. I actually lost a good friend in the music department at Indiana University to her, who became indoctrinated by that line of thinking. And there were shootouts. There were shootouts in New York. It was a terrible time. That's my generation. I'm very sad about that, because we had wonderful people in my generation. But it's what was just a small group of people became a large group of people, and influenced, as we can see, our educational system, our way of life, our culture, and turned it left.
What do you think went wrong? Because as you say, this was a good generation, a generation that was compassionate and intelligent. What happened?
The Vietnam War was part of it. Yeah. And I don't know whether you agree with it or disagree with it. There was a lot of opposition, and people became very riled up about it. And of course, our soldiers were not treated well when they came back. People were angry, and of course, the left pounced on that.
Was
So,
this also the dismantling of a trust and authority at that time? Or
well,
was
sure,
that
hippies, yes.
but I mean, or had it been going on earlier? Like, you know, the feminist movement, late teens, 20s was already kind of pretty big. There was already disharmony and this kind of thing.
You think about after World War II, and I'm a baby boomer,
Mhm.
we were kind of the privileged kids. You know, we didn't have to go through what our parents went through. Well, my parents, now I have to say I had immigrant parents, so it was a little different than my friends' parents. But we rebelled, I guess, against privilege, which is what the privileged kids of today are doing. They're joining Antifa. They're joining the left. Why is that? Because everything is given, and we came from like my parents came here for opportunity, to a land of entitlement. And once you start giving everything, people become very spoiled and very lazy. Now, going back to my generation, everybody went to college. People didn't do that before. They went out and worked. And it was an agricultural society. And so you worked the farms, and you worked hard, and you helped your parents, and you helped your grandparents. This is what I'm just surmising. I don't know what the push against authority. I don't know. We pushed against God, and we pushed against religion. I'm saying my generation. And once you do that, and if you lose that, you lose tradition, then you lose your society.
It's very heavy. I know. Well, first of all, I should say that my colleague um, co-hosting Chava is also she's a farmer in Israel, and working the land in Israel. If you think working the land in America is a challenge, working the land in Israel takes superhuman powers. Um,
And you have respect. You have respect for nature. You have respect for what you're doing. You have respect for what your parents are doing. We have just lost so much respect and gratitude.
how do we get this back?
I think Charlie Kirk's wife said something very profound, and I think it might be that his death unleashed something that the left can't imagine. Many people bought a Bible that never had a Bible. 32,000 colleges in the United States are now implementing Turning Point at college, have asked for a chapter.
We should say, for those in Israel that don't know, Turning Point was one of Charlie Kirk's organizations in universities, right?
Well, he started Turning Point, yeah, I think when he was 18. And it was to go around to young people, basically to make them think a different way than how they were being indoctrinated. And also if you don't know who he is, at 18, he started this and died at 31, was just assassinated, literally, horribly. And he would encourage dialogue of any kind, and especially people that did not believe what he believed. He was very religious. He followed God. He followed Jesus. He followed goodness. And so he would request anybody. He would hold sessions at colleges, which is what he was doing at the time that he was assassinated, to create dialogue. Prove me wrong. Why am I wrong? What do you have to say differently? And then I will discuss it with you and I will debate you. So rather than having a physical confrontation, he was encouraging dialogue. So I think he actually was the reason that Donald Trump got elected, because he changed so many young people's minds and made them think a different way than they had perhaps been taught. So how do we get it back? We get it back with this kind of dialogue, with this kind of goodness. I was in Indonesia and India last November and December, and my guide in India was wonderful, and she's Hindu. And she said, basically, it's think good, say good, and do good. And that's it. I mean, when you break it down to that, and we are facing goodness and evil, not Republican, Democrat, not country versus country. It's goodness versus evil. So how do we change that evil thinking? I think people like Charlie Kirk and changing. Unfortunately, it's our media and our social media. How do we regulate that? How do we force them to tell the truth? It's finding the truth, and there's so many lies being put out there, and people believe them. People who are not strong, in my opinion. So it's people like us, grassroots, who believe what we believe and believe in goodness and say goodness. And I think we can't sit back anymore. We have to push forward, and we have to get the word out there, because it's certainly the other side is getting the word out there. So we have to counter that. And people going into teaching who have goodness in their hearts, go into the public schools and encourage your children to get their degrees so that they can go teach in public schools, so that we can change the minds back to the way I grew up and the teachers that I had. I never knew what side they were on. I just knew that they taught their subjects and they were good people. And we've certainly gotten away with that from that because we have let the other side do what they do.
Like journalism, good journalism used to be presenting both sides of the
Yes.
argument.
Not your
And now it's not. Now good journalism is what we see. It's, incomprehensibly, it's all one side opinion, and of course you know where the author stands. I mean, that's par for the course nowadays, but it didn't used to be that.
I was just listening to Until Williams on CNN talk about this assassination and the young man who assassinated Charlie. And instead of saying how terrible that was, he was saying how beautiful, basically, it was that the young man who assassinated Charlie texted his trans lover and how much he loved him, and he was just protecting his lover and called him my love. And so the left, because they could not pin it on a MAGA person, on a Republican, which they were trying to do at first because this young man was, and then went to the dark side. Then when they found out he had turned very far left, they tried to romanticize the assassination. That is horrible. This is what we're seeing on CBS, ABC, CNN, and thank God that who was it? Scott Jennings countered that, and that's what we need. We need people countering it very loudly. That assassination is not okay. If you disagree with somebody, it's not okay to kill them. You know, so we have to get back to a spiritual education. And people after this assassination went to church for the first time, started going to church, took their kids to church. So I think we have to think about spiritual education as well as the educational system.
And it goes beyond Christianity. I happen to be at Chabad of Mason, Ohio, that week. And for Shabbat, one of the things that the rabbi had, his flock, he had a bunch of people there, and he was talking about Charlie Kirk and said how he was a Sabbath observant Christian. And if even the Christians who don't need to keep Shabbat are willing to do this because God said so, and they're so convicted, the Jews, who it's incumbent upon us to keep Shabbat, certainly should be keeping it. So it goes way beyond the borders of Christianity. It spills out to all different types of people, his spiritual integrity that he lived with and died with.
Yeah, it's the spiritual teaching. We're not nourishing our young people's souls, because that will stay with them forever. Well, you hope, if they're strong enough to counter the evil that's coming at them through social media and the media. Yeah. So the spiritual education is very important, and parents have to be very diligent and stay on top of it. I've mentored a lot of young people whose parents don't do that, So I had a wonderful father who taught me very well, I think. And I try to pass that on the best that I can. And I listen to young people, and I try to instill goodness in as much as I can. Beauty.
I can vouch for that. That Gwen will listen to the young people, even when we're saying struyot, when we're saying ridiculous things. She listens, quietly, patiently, attentively, and has a way of meeting not only kids, all people, where they are and just having that discussion, to kind of bring them to new ideas. And you feel after a conversation with Gwen that you found it yourself, even though you didn't. It's never a bat over the head. I was looking up the name while you were talking. It was George Floyd. I just wanted to make sure. It was another kind of situation where this became a liberal icon, and this guy was a horrible human being, with a criminal record. And I tell my kids, Gwen, and I've said it on the show here before, Hitler was a painter, because evil doesn't come in with a pitchfork and horns. Evil comes in with beauty. And, you're talking about these teachers who just want to do good. Well, their side says, well, I just want to do good too. It doesn't come in saying, I want to do something evil and dismantle the entire society. Sometimes they admit to it, but sometimes not. And evil doesn't come in as evil. It usually comes in as good or kindness or compassion. And we still have to retain some level of critical thinking. I remember being maybe 14 years old and having this conversation with you. And I think you told me then common sense is neither nowadays, neither common nor sense. And I also said, I remember telling you, Auntie Gwen, I feel like critical thinking is dead. And I feel even more so now. What do you wish, or if you could tell the younger generation something important, things they should know about, things they should research, things, if you could give them some thoughts about what's important to carry on into the future, what we shouldn't be missing, what would come into your head?
Wow. Well, learn history, learn real history so that you don't repeat it.
How can they do that, the next generation?
I think what people don't do today is research. They listen to sound bites and they pick that up right away. And whatever they hear on the internet, they pick it up right away. And you listen to the left, they just parrot one another. Even the journalists, that they say exactly the same words. So it's doing research, going into the past, reading the words of the ancients, first of all, and learning how to decipher. You have to learn how to decipher what is good, what is bad. Also get out there in nature. I think it's so important. We're crammed in together, and get off of your phones and get off of your computers. Go read books, and not just any book. Read the classics, read history, listen to good music. I often say I'm so sad. Wherever I go, I'm listening to rap or unpleasant rock and roll, anywhere I go. And I think, gee, it's so sad that the young people today don't hear Duke Ellington, don't hear Mozart, don't hear Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Beethoven, Dvorak, Chopin. Go see ballet, go see real athletes. I always tell the young kids, I said, you think this is athletics? Watch this. And I'll send, an incredible danseur, ballet, like somebody from ABT. So expand. My dad, I remember when I was a little kid, in grade school, and my parents were classicists, and both educated in Italy. But anyway, and I was in a rather exclusive area, and my grade school was a private school, and my parents wanted to have a French class instilled in the school. And the parents said, well, we're Americans, we speak English. Why should our children have to learn another language? And my father said, well, would you live in a house without doors and without windows? Or would you live in a house without doors and windows that opened? And they said, well, of course not. And he said, well, that's what you're doing to these children. You're keeping the doors and windows closed. Open the doors, open the windows to what's out there, and let them learn. And if they learn the language, they will learn the culture. They'll learn history. They'll learn about their fellow man. So anyway, French was instilled in our school because he made a very good point, and I like to make that point. Don't keep your minds closed, open them up. So don't just listen to every soundbite that comes along. Go do research, go read, go learn something every day. That's what Charlie Kirk said, learn something new every day.
How do kids today find out? You say read the classics. How do they find out what they are? When I was young, everyone knew what the classics were, but now nobody knows. So how could young people figure that out, what the classics are?
Well, they do have a computer. I suppose you could look that up, couldn't you? What is ancient history? Who taught ancient history? What is it? What's a classic book? How do I learn how to speak French? How do I learn how to speak German? How do I learn how to speak Chinese, which is what we should be learning so we can understand? That's a good thing about technology and a computer, but then you also have to decipher, and you go ask your elders, go ask. Maybe you have a good teacher that you respect. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't just parrot what you were told.
You mentioned that you got your master's degree towards the later in life.
Yes. I was too busy performing.
You were too busy living a life,
creating theater.
having a life? Yeah.
Having a life.
Yeah. What do you feel about university today? Because it's also a place of heavy indoctrination, and it's kind of light on the real classics, real debate, all these things we've been talking about. First of all, did you feel that why did you get your master's at that time? Did you feel it was helpful for you? And do you feel that university is a scam nowadays, or is it something that we should keep prioritizing?
Why did I do it? I did a film with who's that friend of mine, and he went back. He's a Shakespearean actor, and he went back to Hunter College, and he said, Gwen, I really recommend it. I learned so much. I really liked it. Go get your master's. So I did. Was it helpful? I had some wonderful teachers. One unfortunately passed, and one is one of my best friends now. We've been partners in producing not only our own theater in New York City, but also partners in a Broadway show. So I met wonderful people, and I learned a great deal, I must say, and I appreciated it much more as an older human being and somebody who'd been in the theater for many, many years. So I loved it. Are there teachers like that today? I don't know. Charlie Kirk and I agree. I told my grandson, I will send you to Hillsdale College. and I will pay for it if you go. If they go to a conservative college, a college that respects history, respects spirituality, respects goodness, yes. Other colleges, no. I would say go into a trade, study a trade, which is actually Charlie Kirk suggested that as well. He read 100 books a year. So what I know I would not encourage my child to go to college unless it was a conservative college.
I want to share a memory, and then Chava, I'd like for you to pitch in some thoughts too, and maybe questions. But I want to share a memory of Gwen, um, who kind of took me in when I couldn't go home when I was in my senior year of high school, and I needed a safe space to study for my final exams and take my final exams. And I stayed with Auntie Gwen. And I remember coming home one evening, and Gwen was sitting in the chair and she was reading a book, and it was called something like English Words or expanding your vocabulary or something like this. And I saw her, and I started laughing, and I said, Gwen is like a very accomplished actress, and anyone who's ever had to perform in the theater usually has a pretty decent command of vocabulary or an understanding of history. You have to kind of do some research in order to perform or direct. And so I was laughing, and I said, Gwen, you don't know English by now? And she told me, I could study my whole life and I would still not know every word that exists in the English language. And it was a huge eye opener for me as a teen, about how to look at everything in my whole life. So I've already thanked Gwen for it, but I'll thank her again for that now. Chava, do you have some questions? I know we typically wrap up. We're kind of in our last 10 minutes or so. And then what we do, Gwen, is that we stop recording and we open it up to Q&A, basically so people can, their personal life stories aren't, out there on the internet for the Q&A. But okay, Chava.
Okay. So first of all, listening to you is fascinating. And I think that so many people, as you guys have touched on up until now, don't have the access or don't appreciate or respect or give time to the elders where all the wisdom is. I mean, all of it. Like you're saying, where do they come up? How do they know the history? How do they find out the classics? We all have the internet, and that's true. Thank God. That's amazing. But really and truly, the connection is our elders. And so we've put them in old age homes and neglected them to I don't know what, and no respect, and the reverence is gone. And that's where our answers are. That's where our connection is, but that's where we get those answers to all of our questions and so many others that we would never even think to ask.
It's
But
our
one thing,
library of life experience.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. And it used to be so natural and so just right there at our fingertips because grandma was, shelling peas and grandpa was whatever, tiddling around in the garage, and you just go down there and hang out with them. But I don't know, so many of us, myself included, just never had that. But one thing that I was wondering is listening to you and this wealth of wisdom and groundedness, if that's a word, and you're everything is so tangible coming out of your conversation, but yet you live in this very artsy, usually very leftist kind of mentality. And somehow you're able to also find yourself and your own grounding. But how do you stay, or have you your whole life been able to kind of stay above that and then mentor those people who you're absolutely surrounded by. I don't know. I find it like mind blowing.
I don't know. I never thought right and left before. Actually, before Barack Obama. There, I said it. I said it. I was, yeah, I had my head in the clouds. I was an actress. I was in theater, but I was trained by a good man. So, and 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 I was on my own from the time I was 17. And I don't mean abandoned at all. I was off to college at 17 in a place that I'd never even seen before. It just was there. And then I went from there to work, and it was far away from home. So, but I was taught strength. My father, as I said, an immigrant who came at a very young age, and and because he ended up with a little girl all by himself, at an older age, he taught me a lot of value that I probably wouldn't have had if I didn't have that kind of person.
And
Mentoring.
he remained present for you. So even though you
Absolutely.
left, you would always call him and talk to him, and he was there for you always.
Always. And he came to everything I did. And I was very fortunate in school. I got to do a lot of things with a lot of incredible people. I traveled the world, and I worked with a lot of stars while I was in college. He was always there for everything. He was always there for my performances. He would even come to classes and listen and watch and so forth and so on. So I had that advantage. Now, where was I going with that? What was your question?
How you stayed above and
How I
separate.
stayed. Well, I tried to stay true to myself, and then when things changed, I stayed true to myself. It was it's very difficult in show business. I have a very dear friend who's a big producer, and she cannot say anything. Me, I don't care anymore, because if we don't counter this, we're not gonna have a country, first of all, and I'm not even sure we're gonna have theater, the theater as we know it, which we almost don't right now. But how did I stay true? You just have to stay true to yourself, and you have to get the word out. You have to do what's right. That's all. That's it. You can't cave. I can't keep my mouth shut. I can say certain things. I don't have to attack, but I can question, why do you say that? Why do you think that? Do you know that to be true? And also, I'm not so involved. Thank God I'm not performing. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I probably find another course of action. I'd find something else to do, because my industry is very sad. Now, that being said, I'm sure there are a lot of people under the radar that you would never know about who feel the same way we do. But it's hard to suss them out. And I do that through questions, actually, and not attacking. And when you find your own kind, you stick with your own kind too. And I've lost friends, but I've also made friends. So you just have to be a Charlie Kirk. And you just have to be true, and you have to seek truth, and you have to ask truth, and you have to ask people, why do you say that? Why do you think that? Where did you hear that? Do you think that's true? Can you prove that's true? Yes, I was asked that. Actually, I was asked that very question when I interviewed for Board of Ed. One of the gentlemen whose wife is in theater as well, not professional, but she said all her friends are lefties. how did you why are you on the right? I said, because that's the right way to be, but you do what's right. And if you're good, a lot of very good people like James Woods, who has like 180 IQ, had his career and he's not afraid to speak out. And there are a number of them out there. But Hollywood is crazy. New York is crazy. My industry is crazy. It's crazy. We have to change it.
Have you been afraid to speak out in the recent decades that you just, because I know personally, I guess I want to clarify for the audience. Just because you hold different political beliefs or you have like a spiritual practice or whatever, it doesn't mean, and I've witnessed Gwen, everybody loves Gwen. It doesn't matter if they have totally opposing beliefs. Gwen always has like a very respectful countenance, dialogue, approach with all of her colleagues, with everyone she's working with. And I think that's also, it speaks very well of us when we're able to do that and not be attacking and just, you don't believe as I do, get out. But were you afraid in the industry, in the entertainment industry at any time to be, you just had to keep your mouth shut and keep your head low?
Yeah, you have to know when to do that. It's sad because they can say whatever they want. And they do say whatever they want. And then I lose respect. So you have to, and especially, I'm a producer. So they have to be careful. I may not hire you if you are that radical, and people that I have worked with. But anyway, yes, I have had.
And for good reason.
I've had to be careful.
It's not a retaliation. I won't hire you. It's if you're so radical, you ostracize the creative team that you work with, and it makes this project difficult to pull together.
Yes, and then I wonder how your mind works. Can you handle this? It's a touchy situation. It's and it's becoming worse and worse because my entire industry has gone absolutely bonkers. And that's why I am not, it wasn't so out there before, but people weren't so angry and hateful. But even my union, I just don't even understand them anymore. In fact, I might leave it. But it wasn't like this. What fomented this hatred, so much hatred? Well, it's coming in from outside sources, and it's just infiltrated our society, and people have bought into it. It's very sad because it wasn't like this before. Just recently, very recently, and these outside sources, and it's coming in through our social media and through our media. It's very sad. It's just very
What
sad.
are the outside sources? What does that mean? I don't understand.
Outside sources are enemies, whether it's China, whether it's Japan, whether it's
outside of the United States.
Yes, that have infiltrated, and it's a cancer that's spread. So thank God we have a strong leader, because I don't think we'd have a country right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't think we'd be a sovereign country at this point, or we'd be even further down the abyss. I think we have a chance, and I think we have a chance. I think we have a chance, and it's very sad that Charlie lost his life, but it may have sparked something that this country hasn't seen in a while. So I'm really, really hoping, but the other side is so strong. I don't know if you've heard about this mom, Donnie, that's running for mayor. in New
Oh,
York.
is in New York? Yeah.
This is a communist Muslim, and there's no other way to put it. He really is. But because he is now the Democrat candidate, the Democrats, because of the way they believe, have to support their candidate. This guy, if he wins, I have no words. It would be tragedy, but it started, London. If it happens in New York, if it happens in Minnesota, there's a guy there that's just you can't even articulate. So I don't know. I'm hoping that our president does something to counter it, but but this just shows you where people's minds are, that they would actually support a communist Muslim, but it's because in the young people, because he's offering everything for nothing. But if you listen to his platform, it is totally communist. Government owned everything. Free everything. Government grocery stores, no police, so forth and so on. So how do you get behind somebody like that in America? Where have we gone?
Loss of critical thinking and just parroting, as you said.
Yeah.
A lot of very bizarre issues have become like integrated and conflated with each other that are actually dichotomy, like complete opposites. And yet they're, like this anti-Israel sentiment with the left. And it's just like, how are these even, or people who call themselves gays for Palestine, where if they went into these Arab communities, they would be stoned to death and killed, and they don't get it. So these kind of weird things that have been grouped together with obviously no critical thought at all. It's just like someone wrote a playbook, like this is what you stand for, and everyone just picked it up and parroted. Gwen, I know yeah, go ahead.
Just a little point.
Yeah.
I was in Italy visiting my family, and across the street from my cousin is this store that has everything. It's a discount store that has everything, sort of, I don't know, not a Walmart, but anyway. So the man that runs it has been there forever. And I said to him, what happens? How do you look out after all this and keep your eye on everything? And who helps you? You're here all by yourself. He said, I can't get young people to help. I can't get young people to work. This is in Italy. So this is what I've been hearing here. Can't get young people to work. The work ethic, where is it? I don't know. And what is stopping it? Anyway, I just wanted to bring up that point.
That's heavy. Because we need to close out before the Q&A, are there any final thoughts or final words that we haven't covered that you'd like to share? No.
Go out there and influence as many people as you can. Be a Charlie Kirk. Yeah. And go after goodness and light and make people talk to one another.
None of this virtual stuff. Really in-person conversations.
Yes. If you have to go knock on doors, talk to people in the grocery stores or any store. Just talk to people. Yeah, on the street. Yeah.
Asking questions. Just about their lives, about anything.
Yeah. That's it. Okay. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, Lowell, we're going to wrap up and let's end the recording, and we'll go to a Q&A if Gwen has some more time.
So we want to thank Chava and Rivka and their lovely lady special guest, Gwen Arment, for tonight's memorable program, and our friends and colleagues, Mary, Miriam, Sarah, Sharon, for joining us from, as far as I know, the United States. Again, please support the work of Chava, Rivka, and Gila. And I don't know how one supports Gwen's work, but however it is, please do it. You remember, Act for America, that's Bridget Gabriel. As
Yes.
my father would say, she's hot stuff. That's a compliment. He's gone home to God at age 98. On October 16, 2018, buried with full military honors by United States Army Honor Guard. He was lieutenant colonel. That was his religion, was Army, Army, Army. So we wish everyone, we're all walking through the bullets everywhere, unfortunately. And
See Water for Elephants on national tour to support Gwen. It's a
what?
non-woke Water for Elephants, a non-woke Broadway show, spectacular, circus arts, great story,
the book.
reflective.
So if you
Read the-
send me the links when the documentation will, I'm slow as a turtle. I move backwards. I'm moving forward. I finally get it all up there. So I include the links, whatever about your Gwen, about yourselves. I basically have the packages that need to be updated. Whatever you want for about Gwen to be included in the documentation will go with the video. Just send it to me and it will go up there. And of course, support my work too. I mentioned all that in the beginning. So next week is Rosh Hashanah, the Israelite New Year, 5786, Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's 2 days. For 5786 for the coming year, and let's hope for the best. It will be less horrible than this year. So shalom from somewhere in Connecticut and the northern Negev and the lower Galilee, and here from the Hill of the Priests, Givat Hanania in Jerusalem, and from our friends in the United States. And we hope to see you next month for our first seminar of the new year 5786. Okay.